Hello everyone, Hachadino over here, and get ready to get a drink or something. This is the full Sublety 11.1 guide. We're going to go across everything, and this guide is from the beginning to the end for people that play sub. But if you want only a short guide that covers the things that kind of change in the patch, you can check the short one that I did. It's like 8 minutes or something the other day, and also the backstab thing is in dance that may explain why some simulations and now when they are also implemented the things the simulation bot does. Now first of all I'm going to begin explaining the spec, its strengths and weaknesses. Then we are going to go into the general gearing strategy. I'm not going to put a beat list or anything. If you want, there is one on the Rogue Discord, but I'm not going to put it because if you just try to follow those, it's likely that you will lose some mid-core upgrades that you could equip. And also, talents are kind of static. I'm going to show one variation only and not much more. We are always Trickster. It's a bit ahead on single target from 2 to 3%, and on AoE it's almost the same as Deathstalker, but Deathstalker has a very annoying mechanic that I will explain in the future in another video likely. Maybe it's also covered in another guide, but that makes it doing AoE not fun with it. So let's first begin. We are a Sublety Rogue. This is our talent tree. This one is, let's say, this part over here is kind of static because they nerfed Suicide Darkness to be super bad. Now it only works with Vanish. You don't really care about that. Now, some people do like to play in Vigor and Thistle Tea, but let me tell you, even if it feels better, it's not that good anyway. And when our secret techniques are hitting for more than 20 million in total, maybe you do want them to be a critical strikes. Don't you think so? Okay. Now, for other things, remember Shadow Heart is useless. It only works on normal stealth, not in dance. Some things you can get the slow reduction instead of getting, for example, these 2 points. But I just like having the Steel Shroud because in Mythic Plus and in other places you can just pop your Shroud, be faster, and it's only 3 minutes. 2 charges of Feint, 2 charges of Shadow Step. Always get your Cloak of Shadows and Blind. You can use Shift on some dungeons, but it's a very bad one. It has 30 seconds of cooldown. Maybe on Theater Pain, if no one can soothe the Bloodhorn, you can get that one. There is no place where we really use Wound Poison or Crippling. Well, we want to use Atrophic Poison for most of the things. With how bosses works and plays, this is kind of our rate buff, let's say. It says 3.6 because we are using the Master Poisoner, making it stronger. It's 3% baseline. No Mean Poison, it's also kind of good for Mythic Plus, but you can use either of them. Mobs doing less damage when they do things like 6 million, it's quite noticeable. This doesn't change. And then if you don't know what these are kind of something that you play a little bit around, but nothing crazy. It's called Supercharger. When you use your Symbols of Death, you will get a buff. You will only see it on your bars. They are like some blue points depending on the weak aura or the UI that you're using. It will be like that. I have a weak aura that tells me how many I have. For example, if I put my Symbols of Death now, I will see that I have 4 over here. And basically what you do with those 2 points, or 4 in my case, it's that they count as extra combo points, meaning your eviscerate, your ruptures, your secret techniques. Do remember, of course, not to waste it on rupture most of the time. But for the most part, you get 2 points here and then 1 extra point from also forced induction. Deeper stratagem will be use this. Alaracity, it just exists. It gives you 5% haste just by existing, and then you get some crit and crit damage over here and over there. Now for Trickster, we do damage with Unseen Blade sometimes when you use Shadow Strike. You also get ways to reset it, like Disorienting Strikes. Every time you use your secret technique, you're going to get 2 Unseen Blades that ignore the cooldown. And you can also sometimes reset while you have Slice and Dice. You get that extra 10% attack speed on your Slice and Dice, and also reset Unseen Blade sometimes. This applies the phased debuff that makes it so the mob can't parry at all. It says that it doesn't work for you, but it also works raid-wide, kind of a cool raid-wide buff that we have kind of. And then also mobs do 5% less damage on you if they have faced, and you also do 5% more on them. This is kind of some critical strike damage on builders, we don't care that much. This is 10% extra critical when you use finishing moves on these targets. Nimble Flurry, very strong, very useful while you are doing almost any kind of content. Do remember I'm going to talk a little bit about Black Powder. And then Coup de Grace, every time you get 4 unseen blades, you will get a Coup de Grace. You want to always have this on a face target, and if possible with Find Witness, because of another talent that is called Shadow Finishers. I will explain a little bit later. Now, as for the sub tree, you have Find Weakness. Basically, you just kind of want to have this as much as possible. Don't worry, you will get it mostly for improved backstab, and also from improved Shuriken Storm. These points are whatever. Did you get a shield and get healing? From here as in execution. You don't really use cloaked in shadows unless you are getting one shot. We also only have one charge of vanish now, so that is not a big defensive. Carry 2 minutes, 18% shield. It's not that good. So we use fade to nothing. Every time we gain shadow dance or vanish, we take 10% reduced damage and also get some speed. Never bad. It also stacks with Shadow Runner. So if you use, for example, Dance, you will see that you will move 40% faster. It's more useful than it looks and may save you from some things that you want to run away from. Now, for the other things, the Shot in the Dark and Shrouded in Darkness is nothing crazy. This is just some reduced cooldown on your symbols of death. Premeditation is one of the things that why we want to enter stealth between pull and pull. Nothing crazy, but also every time you use dance, you are going to get a fill on combo points. This is also why we stab one time in dance to stack dance macabre and get a little bit more damage. With the new force set also, that I don't have by the way, but it's a little bit stronger in stabbing in dance. Then you get the extra charge, the extra duration, secret technique always, extra energy. Here you have another point. It's the same thing as the deeper stratagem, but this one is called secret stratagem. Replicating shadows is just good in single target and also ups your cliff tremendously. Veil touch, just some extra damage. This is the way that you get to reduce the cooldown on your shell dance. Very important. Now, this point, Weapon Master and First Dance. First Dance is super good on dungeons because every time you get a proc of this, it's like way stronger than Weapon Master and works on all target counts. Weapon Master is only single target things and only works with Backstab and Shadow Strike. The, let's say, rule of thumb is that if the fight is 5 minutes or longer, Weapon Master will do a little bit more damage, but if it's lower, First Dance will be ahead or almost neutral. It changes your opener a bit, but it's nothing crazy. Inevitability just extends your symbols of death. This is good because death perception and Shadowcraft are very strong. Death perception just gives you 2 extra symbols, where I have 3 stacks. And then Shadowcraft is the thing that you see, that sometimes if you are looking at stream or something, you see a rogue using a finisher and then he gets his 7 combo points back. This is because Shadowcraft works like this. It extends and extors your symbols of death thanks to inevitability, and you also get it more often. This says 40% more frequently, but basically how Shadow Techniques works is you proc it every 3 or 4 auto attacks that hit. This means that if you miss in between, you are not going to get it. And remember, your auto attacks come in waves of 2. This makes it, of course, so you can't get Shadow Techniques super often if you don't have super fast attack speed, but thanks to Slice and Dice and sometimes when you use Bloodlust or something, you will see them going hard. Also, this is why the Shaman buff, High Fury, giving us more chance to get auto attacks, and also a little bit of mastery, is very important for the performance in general. Now, Flagellation, this is our main cooldown with Shadow Blades that I'm going to explain later how to use. Deeper Daggers, you just get some extra shadow damage, and this is some damage. And this is Dance Macabre. We play a little bit around this with using Backstab in Dance, but nothing crazy apart from that. Now, Rotten is a thing that makes it so you get critical strikes with your builders. Do remember that there's a bug where when you use a storm, it uses all your stacks of Rotten if there are more than 2 targets. So that's why we play a little bit around this in AoE. There are more than 7 mobs, but you can also play Finality instead if it's on single target. In mass AoE and AoE in general, it's nothing bad to have Rotten because you get Fine Weakness on all the mobs and it's decent. Finality, of course, is extra finisher damage on your Rupture, Black Powder, and Eviscerate every 2 uses. The first one gives you the buff, and the second one uses this 15%. You get 1 buff for each. So, for example, if you use Eviscerate, you are going to buff the next Eviscerate, not Rupture or Black Powder. Dark Brew, and Gormos White are kind of weak, so we don't use them, at least right now. Tornado can be used in AoE situation, but a Trickster is very weird. And I also did a video way back that you can check in the sheet. Remember also that we have this super sheet that you can follow around things, has a lot of information also. It's in the description of the video. I'm going to talk a bit about it later, but for now, that is our talent trees and our abilities. From the talents, now let's talk about the abilities from the spec itself. We have our spellbook. So our main abilities and cooldowns that we want to care about are our cooldown abilities. They are called Symbols of Death, Shadow Dance, Shadow Blades, and Flagellation with our big finisher Secret Technique. We are going to get around this. And for the normal builders, you have Eviscerate and also Black Powder for most of the things. Slice and Dice, now you get it from using eviscerates thanks to cut to the chase. That's why you won't see many people using slice and dice in their bars. It is good to sometimes have it because at the end of pulls, maybe you have to use slice and dice a little bit lower, but you can use it to top it up. And the next finisher builder, that you are going to do in the next pool is going to be full of combo points, and you want to use eviscerates or other things, maybe ruptures instead, and those do not refresh it. Now, Banish used to be a big cooldown way back, but right now it's only a vehicle to get a full combo point builder thanks to Premeditation. Remember this one? Basically, you can use Banish on 2 ways. You can use it on the opener, like I did in the last guide. That opener is almost neutral with the backstab one, so you can use either of them. The short backstab one. I'm going to show both of them to you, kind of. And also the after cooldowns. This means that you are going to use your cooldowns using the shorted open that I did in the backstab video. And then just use Banish after your cooldowns ends to get 1 fill of full CPs and maybe 1 eviscerate. Sometimes you get a Shadowcraft proc and you proc 2 in the flagellation window. Just remember, without first dance, using 2 dances, it's 16 seconds and flagellation lasts for 24. 12 seconds stacking this mastery buff, and then 12 seconds of it having fully stacked most of the time, of course. Hellblades gets your builders to get full combo points, and everything does 20% additional damage. Shadow used to be bugged with something, but now it works with almost everything that is important. Shadow Dance makes it so you can use Shadow Strike and other stealth abilities, increase your damage by 30% thanks to Dark Shadow, and also enables the stacking of Dance Macabre. You begin with 1 stack and then stack it as you use abilities that do not repeat. course, when you go out of Shadow Dance, this stops being the thing, and you just reset to the next one. Our mastery, nothing crazy, just increases the damage of finishing moves. And then shadow techniques is like I told you before, you do auto attacks, and every 4 auto attacks you have 100%, every 3 auto attacks that hit you have 50%. So basically it's like nothing, nothing, 50, 100% to get a stored combo point. Normally without Shadowcraft, when you use a builder, you use these stored combo points to fill your combo point bar up to 7. That is the maximum that we have. But if not, you are going to store them, or if you use builder, for example, and you fill your full combo points, like you are in AoE and you use Shuriken Storm, you will begin getting these extra points. And then when you use Shadowcraft, you begin getting those refreshes. Now, let's go into the gearing itself. I'm going to be very, very fast. For the new gearing, you want to get your 4 set as soon as possible. The 2 set is not as important. Why? You can simulate it. And basically, our 4 set is kind of decent. It used to be that our set was super strong, like 25% or something, but it got nerfed a lot, like almost 70%. They did increase the baseline of sub a lot, so it kind of ended neutral, but we are a little bit sad because now we don't have a cool set. So what happens is your first 2 pieces, if you have Mythic fully upgraded pieces from last year, it's likely that are not upgrades for you. Our offset can be on hands or helmet. You can choose whichever you want. Both are kind of decent. As a proc thing, you can use your helmet or your gloves depending on the bout thing you get. If you get like a mythic helmet that is very good, you can use that one, and also in the future maybe socket it. But for the most part, you will see beast list with gloves at the offset. What I will do, of course, is I will use helmet at my offset because you can get crafted gears there, and also use your embellish. It's safe there, and you can also put a socket if you're unlucky in your belt. And the other socket places, like for example wrist or belt, if you don't have a mythic one that is very good, could be replaced. For embellishment, it's almost the same as before. As the first week comes, you could use the Ascendance one with some Rhythmic Patch gear, but the Rhythmic Patch is not a huge upgrade. If you get an upgrade that was more than 15 eye level on your Rhythmic Patch item, you can just change to Shadow Lens, or in my case, Blessed Grip. This is an embellish that is also not super strong. Same with Lens, you will get like 0. something% extra damage, but it was very recommended to craft weapon in the first week. If you want to play the super long game, you could just wait until Bolt, only if you kill Rick Reverb, but Rick Reverb was kind of harder than expected, so no many kills have actually killed it. And use any of those 2 things if they are alone, and if you also have still the Rhythm set, you can use Ascendance, Dark Moon Ascendance. Do remember to always sim those things, and nothing crazy. Now, the other gear, you want to have 3 stats to focus on. Remember, don't sleep on crit also. Trickster doesn't mind critical strike. So you will get basically on every single piece of offload as much versatility and mastery that you can get. But if you get critical strike, it's also not bad, and it will seem kind of decent. For the neck, for example, you can get the one for Dark Ring Cleft, that is critical strike and versatility, or get one of the PvP items, like for example also same thing on the rings, or crafting them if you are lower geared, and get that versatility mastery going. Circe's Secret, we are likely going to use this item until at least 670 if you don't count any of the other good things the ring can do. But in my opinion, I will stick with Circe's Secret for kind of the whole tier and use my other ring for Jastor. You can of course replace it if you have a super good mythic ring that you get from Bolt, or if you get the roulette one from the one art magnet in Mythic. And for the second one, use Jastor. Jastor, of course, is going to be BIS mostly because it's most of the time a single DPS upgrade for you, and also it's a great DPS upgrade because when you lose the stacks, they go to someone else. For trinkets, on uses, we want the Treacherous Transmitter, if possible, until fully upgraded Herodic House of Cards. If you want to sim it, you can sim it, or Mythic House of Cards. This means that these 1 minute and 30 cooldown trinkets are the strongest for us. There are also other that are not super mad, like the PvP trinket. It's like champion track that you can upgrade to 658. It's kind of like a normal or an upgraded treacherous transmitter, and of course it will be worse than House of Cards. For the second trinket, all of the trinkets are nothing crazy. You just get any that do damage. You can get the Thugs Hotline, many of the Mythic plus one. On Delves, you also have the Mechano Amplifier, whatever, that I have somewhere here. Also, the Heart of Azeroth, Remnant of Darkness is not as good. Remember to sim the other trinkets. And there's one little thing, some trinkets do break with the Pacemaker, the trinket from Floodgate. So do be aware of that when you sim. And also, if you use in Scardins, being Assassination, and you sim the priority one, that also breaks a little bit. The priority one, of course, if it's higher level, it will be better than Scardins. Also, the Suspicious Drink, etc., etc. If you want my, let's say, commendations, try to get the Heart of Azeroth of their Pacemaker because they work also kind of good in Assassination. And if you are doing Delves, you may get the Suspicious Drink, the Amplifier, or if you also play Assassination, the new Amorphous Relic after buffs may be decent, but I'm not 100% sure. That is everything for the gear. Remember, just sim whichever you think is best. You can also always run also a Droptimizer. I did some time back a video about how to Droptimize, etc., etc. You can also watch videos from other people going into those things. And now that we have done everything out here, let's go into the rotation. If you are only interested in that, you can skip to this one. If you have skipped to this place from the other place, on the description that I will put kind of the timestamps. Welcome, and this is the Sublety rotation. We do a lot of bursts every 1 minute and 30 seconds, and we have some places where we use Allo Shower Dance, making us do more damage than normal, but also nothing crazy without our flagellation things. I have done a lot of videos, and I also have a cool chart that I will show you, and let's say these Excel things. This is not like 100% the thing you have to follow, and this is for Obinax. I will move this to other place eventually, not now. And you may see a lot of things written here, but they are not crazy. This is the normal opener without the shortened place. This is the new opener with the shortened place. Basically, if you have the new one, it's kind of use a strike, flagellation, rupture, and then go instantly into dance using your trinket. The other one was using Shadow Strike, Flagellation, Eviscerate to get your Slice and Dice, and then Banish Strike to get a Rupture up and go into cooldowns. The opener is almost the same. You just save Banish for future places, and this is kind of decent. This is also better with the tier set because remember how the tier set works. It stacks faster in dance, and if you go faster into dance, you may get some extra stacks. Now, for how we use our cooldowns, this is still kind of how we use. We play around secret technique. That is why you will see these places where we want to use our secret technique. As you can see here, everything in between is not as important. And remember that you can move some things around. Now, also, this is not super rigid. As you can see here, you may change how things go from one pool to another. You may get more cooldown reduction or not. This is just kind of what you can look. There is also a place called lurks.io that you can see how people actually use their cooldowns in bosses. Because remember, bosses have mechanics and they can be kind of flexible. You can move dance around, symbols of death around, and do damage. That is why sub, even if it doesn't seem super well, will also perform kind of decent always in the raid. if there is, of course, the opportunity. You want to always double dance on cooldowns. You want to have at least one stack of dance and 30 to 40 seconds before using flagellation. You also want to not use any, let's say, secret techniques while flagellation is around 25 seconds or something afterwards. And here you can use cold blood just as it comes off cooldown, but don't delay it because you will get it on the second dance. Also, another rule of thumb is having at least 10 seconds on cold blood while you are 10 seconds or less on cold blood while you are going into cooldowns. And also here you can see you can move this dance the 60 to 70. This dance you also get back on the second set of cooldowns at 3 minutes. So just play around that. This dance you can use just after cooldowns at 30 seconds or something, or after you get secret technique back after using the one with cold blood. You can also skip cold blood altogether and you use the dances here without it, these two ones, or move this one, the 30 seconds one, and it's nothing crazy. All of our dances are going to be kind of the same with cooldowns. Sometimes you get more refreshes and sometimes you get less. The normal dance will be something like, for example, you already have your slice and dice, and you also have your rupture. Remember, of course, too, before you go into cooldowns or as you do flagellation, to have rupture up on the target. It's very important. Also, if you want to look at my abilities, they come over here and then go to the left. And let's say, for example, that you already have your slice and dices, and also you have your rupture on the target, and then you are just using your downtime thingies. You want to get your also find weakness, but it's not super important. And let's say you just got ready to have your dance, and you also have the cook, whatever. Remember, also we always are going to secret technique before using cook. Another thing that I recommend is having a separate bind for the cold blood secret tech and for the cold blood, and also for backstab outside of dance or a macro that you go directly. You will shadow dance backstab and then secret technique with your symbols of death, not like I did over there, and go into dance whatever. You will use then shadow strike and get coup de grace back and go into that place. Now let's get ready. I'm going to show you how we use all of our cooldowns together. So let me get my shadow dance back. And I'm also going to show you the kind of opener that we are going to do. I'm not going to use the trinket because it's a little bit annoying. You remember how transmitter works. You need to jump 3 times, follow a kind of ball, or get the other thing. Now, first of all, of course, I have 2 stacks of skeleton blade. You won't have those. But what you will have is 2 stacks of, in this case, supercharger. Remember also what I told, if you use symbols of death, there's a pull timer, use that at around 20 to 17. If they only do 10-second pull time or something, you forget about that. When you revive, just use symbols of death once. And then for the opener, we are going to Shadow Strike, Flagellation, Rupture, and then go into cooldowns. We're going to those. Like I told, I didn't use the trinket because, as you know, and where I'm playing first dance, so my dance will be a little bit longer. And remember, for the second one, we do use that part. You can see, even without the trinket, it will be that, and this will be what you banish, self strike, and get that extra. As you can see, get a little bit of power from there. And then also, if you run first dance, you will see that you have the secret technique pack. And here, depending on whichever is on the boss or something, you also have to refresh rupture. And then you can choose to go into the symbols and secret technique if there are no mechanics that warrant adds spawning or something. Remember, at 30 seconds, sometimes adds a spawn or do things. And If not, you can use your dance here, and then you will get also a dance likely where Cold Blood comes back. You can do two things with this. You can build to full and then use Symbols of Death, Dance, and Secret Technique with Cold Blood, just as it goes of cooldown. Or you can use it when Cold Blood has 3 or 2 seconds left, depending on how many Shadow Techniques stacks you have, and you will use Symbols of Death, Shadow Dance, and then Eviscerate, Shadow Strike, and Cold Blood Secret Technique. This is not something that is on the APL, and it's likely to be a DPS loss if you delay Cold Blood a lot. So what I recommend while you learn is that you use the on the 30 seconds place you use a dance or a Symbols of Death with Secret Technique, whichever you want, and then when Secret Technique is back, you just dance, and then after your Secret Technique is back again, depending on whichever you use. If you danced, you will send it alone. If you didn't dance, you will send it with a dance there. Then on 90 seconds, you will do the same thing. You will always have, of course, high duration of slice and dice because you are using eviscerate a lot. But if not, remember to get slice and dice by using an eviscerate if you have some downtime or something. You can build to full flagellation, rupture, and then go into cooldowns. Remember that it's not going to change much. For your cooldowns, you are going to use the first secret technique without cold blood. Here, as you can see, I have it on 3, and the second one with cold blood. Without first dance, for example, you would just get 2 dances in a row and get, remember, you will use Symbols of Death just before or when Secret Technique has 10 seconds of cooldowns left. You can, of course, get the Symbols of Death on Pandemic. They work with 3 seconds of leeway and be very. If this was not super clear, I'm going to eventually also do like a 5-minute slides, kind of like I did on the last expansion for this that you can check out. But you can also watch my bot where I kill bosses, or even check out some Mythic Plus thingies. I uploaded some 10s and 11s that you can check out. I'm not a perfect player, but you can have more or less an idea of how things work. So this was everything for single target. Now for AoE, some things change, but nothing much. I'm not going to talk about Deathstalker, but let's talk about AoE with Trickster. Now, Trickster has a very strong talent called Nimble Flurry. This makes it so until there are 7 targets, it is not even worth to use Shuriken Storm inside Dance, very important, to get Find Weakness and then use Black Powder. Remember, Black Powder and Eviscerate hit extra hard if they have the Find Weakness on them because you get extra damage as Shadow, and you have some things that increase Shadow damage also, like Deeper Daggers or the 4th set on the new tier set. You also have extra from Bell Touched, and of course a super strong from Dance Macabre and Dark Shadow. The same thing as before, it's still a little bit of a win to use Dance and Stab, but this also collides a little bit also with another rule. Remember I thought that Rotten was better in situations where you had a lot of AoE. It is because there is a bug. If you want to see the bug, it's just super easy. If you use Symbols of Death, you will have 2 stacks, and if you use it in AoE, you will lose all of them. Now, of course, the thing that you want to do for normal dances is, let's say you are going to Symbols of Death, Shadow Dance, Shadow Strike, use Secret Technique, and then if you get a Shadowcraft proc, you will use an Eviscerate. If you don't get a Shadowcraft proc, you will use an Storm, and then go into using Black Powder. You will use this 1 time each dance because remember, Find Weakness is a debuff that does run out in 10 seconds. So you want this to be up also for the second dance if you are in cooldowns. But if not, you will do, let's say, a normal pool. Let's say this is an opener pool, let's say. And it's going to be the same thing. I'm going to skip the backstab because it's a little bit annoying to do, as I told you before. Doing it is a little bit of a win. But remember, in Mythic Plus, most of the time, comfort is actually damage because you have to dodge things and also be alert. Same thing as before, you can get 1 or 2 ruptures while the tank gathers mobs. This is of course not in the sims, but in normal situations you can do that. And then you will get your hair, and then you can see here. And I'm using as I had the, let's say, 7 mobs. You can also go instantly into the this without ruptures, as in here. And then on this one thing that doesn't change is you always use Shadow Strike inside dances, not Storm, apart from the one where you will get that find weakness debuff on your targets, and this is when there are more than 7. Do remember that we have to think about things, so if there is a very important target, you can and will use Eviscerate on it, and it's not a big loss. But also the difference between eviscerates and black powders is not as big as you think. Black powder does around 80 to 85% of the damage of an eviscerate. One thing that is important is if you get a coup de grace, remember this one, use it as soon as possible. Is it not if secret technique is not out of cooldown? In your cooldowns and things like that, you sometimes will get coup de grace. If you have secret technique ready, you're going to use it. If you don't have secret technique ready, you're going to use coup. Sometimes on Physic Plus, you also have off dances, let's say, like same thing as you are in single target, depending on the cooldown reduction that you have. The rule of thumb still keeps, you want to have 1 stack of dance and 20 seconds going into flagellation. But on the ones in between, if you have some symbols of death going into those, do remember that sometimes you will have to use symbols of death along with secret technique. And just remember, if there are not a lot of targets, you will still shuriken storm when there are more than 3 targets, but after using secret technique, you can use backstab sometimes to get them flawless form buff. When you have the flawless form, your nimble flurry is active. It's kind of important, but there is, if there are a huge deal of mobs, like say 10, more than 10, you can ignore those. And while you are in dance, you are going to get coup eventually anyway. So remember, of course, that if you are missing slice and dice, you do want to use an eviscerate, or after a pull, use a slice and dice. Now that is everything. Now, if you have any questions or anything, I'm always available on Discord, or also on the Rogue Discord. You can ask in the Sublety channel. You can also, of course, ask in the comments below. And I'm also going to try and put timestamps here across the week. So if you don't see them just as I uploaded, it's because it's reset day and I went to sleep. So almost 2 a.m. on the Tuesday. But I will try to get them as soon as possible. Have a nice day, and I will see you on the next video. Subscribe, like, and also check the cheat in the description.